Just ahead on CTV News.
A Prince George's police officer is arrested. I'll tell you her name and what charges she faces coming up on CTV News.
Plus, candidates for the county circuit court are reaching out to voters. And Simon Buggs has our Wednesday sports page. Those stories and more on CTV News, starting now.
Good evening. This is CTV News for October 9th. I'm Michaela Newton.
And I'm Mariah Gillad. Thanks for joining us. Topping our news tonight, a Parkdale High School student is in the hospital after being struck by a school bus yesterday afternoon. The county's fire and EMS department arrived at the 6,000 block of Good Luck Road just after 2:10 when school lets out. The teenager was hit by the bus right outside of the school. The student was then taken to the hospital in critical but stable condition, and according to the school, the bus was not a Parkdale High School school bus. The driver did remain on the scene. The case is currently under investigation.
Meanwhile, the Prince George's Police Department is engulfed in yet another scandal. This time it involves a rookie female officer and stolen vehicles from an airport in Virginia. CTV's Katara Jones is outside police headquarters in Upper Marlboro with this developing story.
That's right. This case involves one Prince George's police officer. Her name is Sierra Alston, and she has been charged with illegally using 3 stolen cars. Alston was arrested at Reagan National Airport and charged by the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority Police Department last Thursday, October 3rd. According to reports, she has been charged with 3 counts of unauthorized use of a vehicle. Reports indicate that Alston allegedly used 3 BMW cars that were stolen from the rental car company 6, which operates out of Reagan National Airport. Reports also show that the rental car company learned that about 30 cars were taken from the airport. 3 cars were allegedly traced to Alston, and reports indicate that the Prince George's police officer jacket was found in one of those cars. Now, Alston made her first court appearance in Virginia today. She has also been suspended without pay from Prince George's police. Katara Jones, CTV News.
All right, Katara, thanks so much for that report. Alston joined Prince George's Police Department back in 2023 and is assigned to the Bureau of Patrol.
Meantime, as Hurricane Milton quickly approaches Florida, a group of first responders from Maryland and the district are yet again heading down south to help with the recovery effort. Maryland Task Force 1 is on their way to North Carolina. The group will be going to relieve the first rescue team sent to help with Hurricane Helene recovery. The team includes first responders from Prince George's and other surrounding counties, including the District of Columbia. PEPCO is also sending 8 repair crews on the request of a Florida power company. Meantime, CTV News spoke to Senators Ben Cardin and Chris Van Hollen about the federal government's response to these powerful storms.
The federal government's going to be there to help. That's why we have the federal government's response to emergency circumstances. So we'll be there. We know there have been 2 storms in recent months. We're going to be there. We're going to do everything we can to make sure that people's lives are put back together again as far as the physical damage is concerned.
So I've always been of the view that all of us representing different states have an obligation to come together as Americans to help any particular state that's been hit hard by a natural disaster. And so I will be supporting more funding for FEMA, more funding for Small Business Administration.
Meantime, Senator Van Hollen called the information put out by the Trump campaign regarding the federal government's response to the recent hurricanes misleading, disturbing, and dangerous. And Angela Alsobrooks still leads Larry Hogan with voters in the upcoming Senate race, according to the latest University of Maryland poll. The poll shows the candidates are popular with their own party's voters, but former Republican Governor Hogan has struggled to gain support from the Democrats he needs to win the state. Alsobrooks leads by 9 points as the two head into what will likely be their only debate on Thursday. Political analysts say the debate is not likely to move the needle unless Alsobrooks makes a major mistake. She is still dealing with the fallout from her property tax errors.
And as November approaches, the battle for control of the U.S. Senate is heating up, particularly in Maryland. On the Final Five, Axios congressional reporter Stephen Newcomb discussed the fierce contest between former Republican Governor Larry Hogan and Democratic nominee Angela Alsobrooks, noting that Hogan's allies are pouring staggering amounts into the race, leaving Democrats scrambling for support. Now, Newcomb emphasized that Alsobrooks needs this backing, especially with super PACs supporting Hogan delivering heavy spending. In response, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer's PAC has invested $250,000 in ads for Alsobrooks.
And while we may be focused on that big Senate race and the presidential race coming up, it's important to turn our attention to local races, including those running to be judges for the Circuit Court of Prince George's County. The 4 candidates met for a forum on Tuesday evening, hosted by the League of Women Voters and the National Pan-Hellenic Council of the county. In addition to getting to know our current judges, the event also gave voters an opportunity to learn about the Maryland judicial system.
Oftentimes there are candidate forums that provide an opportunity to get to know the candidates. But what we're finding as we're out registering voters, verifying voters, and getting them mobilized is that people don't always understand what they're voting for.
From the ground up, we need to be involved in all levels, so from the council all the way up to the judicial to the president. We need to make sure that the judges that we are advocating for or representing, that they represent the community, that we're looking for fair, equitable treatment in the judicial system, and just to get the information so that we can share it with the community so they can make informed decisions about their selected candidate.
Circuit Court judges are the only judges that stand for elections. They are also nominated by the governor. All 4 of the candidates on this year's ballot are already sitting judges. There are no challengers.
And 2 suspects are being charged in a fatal shooting in Silver Spring. The suspects are 24-year-old Jimmy Hernandez Morales and 27-year-old William Pavin Mancocker, facing serious charges, including 1st and 2nd-degree murder in connection with the death of 35-year-old Carlos Alberto Ortiz. Now, the incident occurred on September 14th when officers responded to a shooting on New Hampshire Avenue and discovered Ortiz in a wooded area, tragically pronounced dead at the scene. Now, police are urging anyone with information to call 301-516-2512.
And after nearly 6 months, Prince George's police have charged a suspect in connection to an Oxon Hill shooting back in April. 23-year-old Javon Moore is charged with 1st and 2nd-degree murder of 19-year-old Tyron Avent. The shooting happened in the area of Neptune Avenue and Audrey Lane on April 11th. Officers found Avent outside, suffering from gunshot wounds, and he was later pronounced dead on the scene. Investigation shows that Moore and Avent knew each other, and Moore left the scene after shooting Avent.
And you're watching CTV News. I'm Michaela Newton.
And I'm Mariah Jalad. Still to come.
It's called Tighten Up, but we're not exactly talking about Archie Bell and the Drells. I'm Byron Scott. Will explain coming up.
Everyone likes rooting for their favorite team with some friends. But if you plan on drinking, don't drive. Designate a sober driver or schedule a ride share for a safe ride home. Be the make-up plan driver. Be the driver who saves lives.
Welcome back. Maryland voters are getting ready to preserve the right to abortion access in the state constitution. A recent poll from the UMBC Institute of Politics shows that a strong 69% of voters are in favor, with only 21% opposed. Now, this issue is really making waves as we head into the election. It's also front and center in the Senate race, where Prince George's County Executive Angela Alsobrooks is currently leading former Republican Governor Larry Hogan.
And despite a booming population, Prince George's County is facing a surprising challenge. Fewer people are joining the workforce. Walter Simmons, president and CEO of Employ Prince George's, reports that while more workers are returning to in-person jobs, automation and AI are rapidly reshaping the job market.
2023 was going to be the year that we rebounded in jobs from the negative impacts of COVID-19. We did not see that job growth rebound in 23, but all of our labor market intelligence, all of our data, all of the economists are saying that 2024 is the year that we will successfully rebound from the pandemic. What we're seeing right now is historic lows in unemployment. Right, we are seeing lows of unemployment that we didn't see in the years leading up to COVID. So we actually have lower unemployment today than we saw 6 years ago. What we have seen is a drop in our labor force participation, which means the people that are eligible to work, that want to work in our group, some of them aren't looking for work anymore. They're not even receiving unemployment. They're not receiving public assistance. So they've what you call dropped out of our labor force.
On a positive note, per capita income in the county jumped nearly 6% from 2017 to 2022, even after adjusting for inflation.
Well, the Maryland Department of Planning just received over $1.7 million in grant money to support a drone pilot program that improves medical access. Governor Wes Moore announced yesterday that the money provided by the U.S. Department of Transportation will provide medical supplies to populations in the Eastern Shore who depend on medical resources in the mainland. Now, communities between Crisfield and Smith Island who only have access to the mainland by boat service will now be able to receive supplies quicker and cuts travel time for medical professionals providing necessary services. And the former Regal movie theater in Bowie has been sold to International Church Passion Java Ministries. The company, owned by preacher Passion Java and his wife Lily, bought the Lansdale Boulevard property for just over $10 million. The former theater was valued at $9.1 million and sits on 12 acres of land. It's currently unclear whether Passion Java Ministries will convert this property into a church.
And a full table of new restaurants is coming to the county in a new development in Bowie. Cajun food from the owner of Carolina Kitchen, a sports bar, and a new Dat Jerk Caribbean Char Grill location are just a few of the options coming to the first phase of South Lake Marketplace. The developer says he hopes to fill the Bowie Marketplace with as many local businesses as possible. The development will also include residences, an indoor sports facility, 2 hotels, and some larger chains like Lito's Pizza and McDonald's.
And we have some food recalls to tell you about. The U.S. Department of Agriculture's Food Safety and Inspection Service issued a recall for chicken salad products labeled as cranberry chicken salad. Misbranding and undeclared allergens, including wheat, are the driving force of the recall. Now, luckily, no reported allergic reactions have been linked to the product at this time. Also, a larger recall on ready-to-eat meat and poultry has been announced for possible listeria contamination.
Well, for more than 20 years, Tighten Up Barber Salon has been giving customers tight cuts.
That's right, and since opening its doors in 2001, the business has grown to 3 locations. And our Byron Scott has a story.
I knew that having a trade would be sufficient for me.
Clinton Truesdale Sr. is a master barber and is the owner of Tighten Up Barber Salon with 2 locations in Bowie and 1 in Anne Arundel.
So went to barber school. After going to barber school, man, just got right in the business, got right to work.
He is also a Bowie City Council member representing District 3, but barbering is his first love.
Everyone loves the feel of having a fresh haircut, a tight haircut. I would say it's therapeutic.
Truesdale has been cutting hair for more than 30 years and in business since 2001.
You had the 10 to 12 chair operations, and back then all of those chairs was filled with barbers and along with customers coming in. Now it's more of a 6 to 8 operation, and you could do more with less.
I just saw my dad, working hard.
Clinton Jr. grew up watching his dad cut hair and has joined him in the business.
It definitely brings a lot of joy seeing their reaction at the end of the haircut, if they're happy.
My favorite part would be putting my own style onto it.
Another son, Kennedy, has also joined him in the tonsorial profession.
I would say if you're looking for one of the best barbershops in Maryland, this is definitely the place to come. If you're looking for professionalism, community, then we'll give you an experience like nothing else.
As for the name of the shop, you may recall this song.
Now make it melt.
it just stuck and resonated with us. Tighten up.
In Bowie, Byron Scott, CTV News.
All right, Byron, thanks so much. Well, Tighten Up is having its annual Appreciation Day this Sunday from 2 to 6 at 15708 Mount Oak Road in Bowie.
And still to come on CTV News, a local documentarian is joining us to talk about a new project.
That's right, and his new documentary shines a light on one of the oldest Black communities in Maryland that refused to be erased. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back.
Might not see it coming. It's prediabetes, and it captures 1 in 3 adults. You may not even know you have it, but you can escape. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test to know where you stand. With early diagnosis, you can change the outcome and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Be your own hero on smartphones everywhere at doihaveprediabetes.org.
That first time seeing my son, I feel like my life did a 180. Being present is the most important part. To be the better mirror for my son. Bro, he brings the vibes, you know what I'm saying? He brings the party no matter what. He really a definition of like why he loves somebody. And I love him to the death of me.
Welcome back. One of the many things our neighboring Montgomery County is known for is its rich history. Stories of the Underground Railroad and segregated schools are rooted deep in the community, but are just a part of history. But what happens when a piece of that story goes untold?
The new documentary, My Linden, My Littonsville, An Untold Story, tells the history of a Black community faced with hardship, still managing to produce thriving individuals. Now, our next guest is no stranger to CTV News. Joining us in the studio is former news director turned documentarian, Curtis Crutchfield. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So you've recently retired, more than 30 years in the journalism business. Why was now the time for you to tell the story of Littonsville?
I've actually had in mind to tell this story for years. I was prompted by a documentary that showed on public television about 20 years ago, and it told the story of growing up from the perspective of a white gentleman growing up in idyllic Silver Spring, an area with white picket fences, if you will, 2-parent households, and just a glowing presentation of what it was like growing up in Silver Spring. But what prompted me was that person did not mention anything about the community I grew up in, which was adjacent. It was a segregated Black community called Littonsville. That community was founded in 1853, and at one time it was the oldest Black community in Montgomery County. And it was started by a man by the name of Samuel Linton. He was a free Black man in 1853. And the community grew and developed, and at one point it had more than 110 homes. And it was just outside of downtown Silver Spring. Now what happened was most of the community, this is a low-income community. My family, I had aunts and uncles, grandparents that lived there, low-income community, housing, substandard. No one had indoor plumbing. Most of the roads were dirt. People had to get their water from either a well or a spring nearby. My family, we had to walk maybe 100 yards or so to get water from a water pump. Now, Linden or Littonsville, at one time in the late 1960s, Montgomery County designated it Linden, Littonsville, and about 65 other Black communities, segregated Black communities in Montgomery County as problem areas. And at some point in the late 1960s, the county used eminent domain and urban renewal funds to remake these communities. In the case of Littonsville, it essentially erased the community. 90% of the homes were demolished. And I wanted to tell people, despite the challenging circumstances, a lot of people did well coming out of this community. There were doctors that came out of this community, writers, ministers, civic activists, teachers, myself. And to me, that community was a sense of family. I tell this story a lot. It was the type of community you could knock on a neighbor's door and ask for a cup of sugar, or you could knock, or that neighbor might knock on your door and ask for a cup of flour. I wanted my daughter, my nieces and nephews, and future generations to know that there was a vibrant black community in Silver Spring, known as Linden, known as Littonsville. I didn't want it to be in the dustbins of history books. Now, I should tell you that the community is respected despite the challenges, despite the fact it was essentially erased. There's a museum that's planned for the community. It's going to be housed, if all things go well, if funding goes well, it's going to be housed in the Gwendolyn Caulfield Community Center, which is on Littonsville Road. And it was named after Gwendolyn Caulfield. She was one of the primary or major civic activists in this community, and she was a daughter of this community. So again, I wanted my daughter and nieces and nephews and future generations to know there was this black community. Although you physically erased it, it's still here in the hearts and minds of many of the older residents, myself, and it produced a lot of wonderful, successful people.
Now, urban renewal and gentrification are things that are happening all over the country. So what are your thoughts when, developers come in to kind of clean house a little bit, but some people say that these things are good for the community?
Yes, you can say that. There were some people in my documentary who argued that gentrification, urban renewal was good for developers, good for property owners, but not so much so for the people, the residents who lived there. It was a tight-knit community, and it essentially just tore it apart. My family moved from there to D.C. Others moved to Tacoma Park. Others moved to Rockville, Poolsville. But again, the sense I wanted people to know that there was this small black community, underprivileged, but successful people came out of there, doctors, lawyers, so on and so forth.
Well, thank you so much for being here today with us, Mr. Crutchfield, and sharing the story of the documentary.
Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. You can watch My Linden, My Littonsville, An Untold Story right here on CTV next Monday and Wednesday at noon, Friday at 2 p.m., and on Saturday at 6:30 p.m.
And still to come on CTV News, Simon Buggs has our Wednesday sports page.
That's right, and he's talking UMD football and some high school volleyball. Don't move.
We grew up together. We believed in something bigger than ourselves. The military took me to one side of the world and her to the other. And even though she was always the strong one, when we caught up years later, I found out she had fallen on some hard times. It was her call to make, but doing it together made all the difference.
When I see homeless vets on my route, I always think to myself, we both swore an oath to protect our way of life, to protect our community. With VA's hotline for homeless vets, I can get them connected with help to get them back on their feet again.
VA's round-the-clock hotline can put veterans who are homeless in touch with the resources and support they earned through their military service. You have the power to help a veteran facing homelessness. Go to va.gov/homeless to print your wall cards. For veterans who are homeless or on the brink of homelessness, call 877-424-3838.
What up, everybody? The wait is finally over. It's time for your Wednesday sports page. We begin with some college football news as the Terps football squad is gearing up for their 6th game of the season against Northwestern. This should be an exciting one. This matchup should be an exciting one as both the Terps and Wildcats are looking for their first conference win of the season. And Maryland will have to be firing on all cylinders on both sides of the ball in the matchup, as this Wildcat team could give them some problems.
What we've got to do is grab every opportunity that we have available to us. And the next one is against a team, Northwestern, and when you watch them on tape, a very similar team, and you look at how they played Indiana, that parity that I saw across the country is alive and well when Northwestern comes in, because they're a good team. They've got some good players, they're dynamic pass rusher, number 4 on defense, on the offensive side of the ball, they're going to try to create the ability to run the football, the misdirection, and they basically make you beat yourself.
Kickoff is on Friday at 8 o'clock. Meanwhile, the Baltimore Ravens are preparing for their next game also, as they'll be hosting the Washington Commanders on Sunday. My Commanders are cooking right now, as the team has won 4 straight games. And the big reason for that is quarterback Jaden Daniels. And head coach John Harbaugh touched on him ahead of the highly anticipated matchup.
Jaden Daniels is, heck, he's played, 5 games now? And he's been one of the best in the league for 5 games so far as a rookie. He plays different than Joe Burrow. Every quarterback plays their own unique way. Similarities, differences, is always that part of it. But we just have to look at him and how he fits into their offense and prepare for their offense as run by him. And that's a big challenge. And we got our hands full with that. So that's how we look at it as a defense.
Washington and Baltimore will take the field on Sunday at 1 o'clock. Should be a great game. I can't wait. Now, volleyball fans, listen up, as there will be tons of action from around the county. CMIT South will try and avoid back-to-back losses when they take the court against College Park Academy. Duval will be on the road as the Lady Tigers will face off against Bowie. Parkdale will attempt to snap Bladensburg's losing streak when they take the court. And finally, Laurel will go up against Eleanor Roosevelt. All games begin at 6:30. And wrapping up sports, the Washington Wizards will be in Madison Square Garden tonight as they'll take the court against the New York Knicks for their second preseason game. Tip-off is at 7:30.
And a lot of sports action, Simon. Do you plan on being at any of those volleyball games?
I absolutely will be. I'll be at the Parkdale versus Bladensburg volleyball match. It should be an exciting matchup. Bladensburg are looking to win 3 straight games. It should be a fun, competitive game. Parkdale will try to, like I said, snap that winning streak. I'll definitely be in the house. Sports fans, definitely be on the lookout tomorrow, as I'll have some great highlights for you. It should be a fun one tonight, guys.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Simon.
No problem.
All right, well, let's get a look at our 3-day weather forecast. Tonight will be nice and clear out. Tomorrow we have more clear skies on the way, and it's going to be 64 degrees.
Friday, it's going to be a nice start to the weekend. It'll be nice and sunny with a high of 68. Saturday will be just as nice with a high of 77 and a low of 54. And before we go, our community calendar this weekend, The Price is Right will be at the MGM National Harbor, so come down. The hit interactive stage show gives individuals a chance to play classic games from the daytime game show. Prizes may include appliances, vacations, or even a brand new car. The games will be played this Saturday at 6 and Sunday at 4. For tickets or for more information, contact 301-971-5000.
All right, and that's all the time we have. Thanks so much for joining us for CTV News.
We'll see you again tomorrow. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
I'm a firefighter.
A teacher.
I'm a farmer. I'm a barber.
A waitress. A mom. We're all part of your community. Every day we move in and out of each other's busy lives.
It's easy to take for granted all the little moments that make up our everyday.
Some are good, others not so much.
But that's life. It's when you experience a moment of uncertainty. Something or someone's behavior that doesn't seem quite right.
These are the moments to take a pause.
Because if something doesn't feel right, it's probably not. It's not about paranoia
or being afraid.
It's about standing up and protecting our communities.
One detail at a time.
Because a lot of little details can become a pattern.
We
trust our instincts.
Just like you should.
Because only you know what's not supposed to be in your everyday.
So protect your everyday.
If you see something suspicious, say something to local authorities.